Welcome everyone to today's edition of Career Conversations, hosted by Next Tech Girls. Me, Emily, I'm the director of Next Tech Girls, so I run everything that we do. And today's edition is in partnership with Tenable. So Tenable is a cybersecurity company. I've got notes here because I want to make sure that I explained it really well. So Tenable is a cybersecurity company that helps organizations find and fix security weaknesses before hackers can take advantage of them. Hopefully that makes sense to you, but we'll learn a little bit more about what each of these women specifically does within that organisation today. So I'll bring it to life a little bit more. What is Next Tech Girls? So I mentioned I'm Emily, I'm the director. We are a social enterprise. So that means our mission is very much focused on making positive change to society. So the change that we're trying to make is to get more women working in the tech industry. So firstly, there are not enough people with technical skills or working in tech. So we want lots more young people to be considering future careers in tech, but in particular, we want lots more girls to be considering careers in tech, because at the moment, women are underrepresented in the industry, but we all use technology all the time. So it's really important that the people who are designing and developing and building the technology and whose ideas are coming together to solve problems using technology represent all of us, because that means that what gets built will meet all of our needs and be safe for all of us and be useful for all of us. And how we do that is through online events like today's. So sometimes they're just panel Q&As like we're doing today. Sometimes they also have workshops. We also run insight days, which are in person in company offices around the UK. We do work experience weeks. So if you've got a specific work experience week coming up through your school, but we also do things during school holidays as well. Or if you are in an exam year, after your exams, there might potentially be opportunities too. And we have our annual big event, which is Next Tech Fest, which we run at the moment just in London, but hopefully in future years we'll run it in other locations too. And that's where we get lots of our partner companies together running panel sessions, workshops. We do speed mentoring with women in tech, loads of great opportunities to learn lots more about what it really means to work in the tech industry, all the different opportunities there are, all the different pathways to get there, some of which we'll learn about on today's panel as well, to hopefully inspire lots more young people and especially young women to pursue careers in tech. So I said this bit already, but I'll say it again for anyone who hadn't yet joined the call. We will start off actually now that I've done my intro with a quick cybersecurity quiz. So I planned to have 5 questions, but I ended up with 6, so you've got a bonus question. It's just multiple choice. You don't need to write down your answers. I'm not going to check them or anything. If you're in a classroom, if your teacher's happy for you to, maybe you can shout out what you think the answer is. I'll leave that up to teachers to decide. Otherwise, you could maybe chat to the person next to you about what you think it might be, or if you're on your own, you could write it down or just have to think in your head. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. You might learn some things. Some of them might be really obvious. Some of them might be a bit harder. Hopefully I've got the balance just right. And then straight afterwards, I'm going to tell you what the answers are to them. So we'll see if you get them all right because you already know it all, or maybe you learn a few new things. And then after that, we'll have the panel Q&A. And then just at the very end, I've got a QR code and a link for a form to collect feedback. So if you are in a class and you're not able to fill it in now, it will also get shared with your teachers to hopefully share with you later. We're always really keen to know what you think of the sessions that we run and how we can make them better, more engaging and interesting and inspiring. So really appreciate any feedback that you give us at the end. So our cybersecurity quiz, without further ado. Question 1. What is the main goal of cybersecurity? This one's probably a bit obvious, but we'll see. Is it A, to make the internet faster? B, to create computer games? C, to protect systems and data from attacks? Or D, to build websites? So I kind of gave this one away already because I explained what Tenable do, and they're a cybersecurity company. So if you didn't already know, this is a bit of a paying attention test. But you maybe already knew this one. I'll move on quickly because I think that one's not too hard. Question 2. This one I do think is quite hard, and I tested it on one of my team members this morning, and she was actually not sure. So it's very specific wording. We'll see how many of you get this. It'll be very interesting. If any of you are on the call, or if teachers want to, you can also put in the Q&A chat bit what you think the answers are to these, because it'd be interesting to see what you think. So question 2, if someone tries to trick you into giving your password by pretending to be a trusted website or person, what is that called? Is it A, hacking, B, phishing, C, spamming, or D, scamming? I think this is a good one because it's hard, but we'll see what you think. Question 3, a friend sends you a DM with just a link and OMG, is this you? What should you do? A, click it, you're curious. B, reply asking what it is. C, ignore it and tell your friend their account might be hacked. Or D, share it with others to see if they've received it too. Lesson in internet safety here as well. Question 4, a celebrity's private photos get leaked online after their cloud account is hacked. What's the most likely reason it happened? A, they had too many followers. B, they didn't back up their photos. C, they used a weak or reused password. D, their phone was low on storage. Maybe an obvious one, maybe not. We'll find out. Question 5, which was going to be the last question, but there is an extra one. Remember, there's a bonus, so you actually get 6. You're creating a secure password for your TikTok account. Which is strongest? So it's not just that it's strong, it's the strongest option of these 4. So A, your pet's name and your birthday. B, a random phrase like purple elephant dancing. C, your favorite movie and special characters. Or D, a random mix of letters, numbers, and symbols like that combination on screen, which I won't read out because that's complicated to say. What do you think? What is the strongest option of those for a password? And then finally, bonus question, as we're here to talk about careers in cybersecurity, I thought I should get one in there about careers. So what must you have to work in cybersecurity? Must. A, a computer science degree. B, programming experience. C, previous IT work experience. Or D, none of the above. What do you think? And now you're going to find out the answers. I said it was quick fire. It's quick. So question 1, main goal of cybersecurity to protect systems and data from attacks. Probably you all got that one. I feel like that one was a bit obvious, but we were starting simple, easing you in. Question 2, I did deliberately make this quite hard. Very interested to know how many of you knew this. So if someone is pretending to be someone else to get personal data from you, that is phishing. That's the specific kind of definition of that. That's always phishing. But I thought that was particularly hard because all 4 of those things are very closely related, but that is specifically phishing. Question 3, the advice here is ignore it and tell your friend their account might be hacked. So if that does happen to you and you get sent a link, I know it's hard not to be curious and click it. Don't click it. Contact your friends separately. Tell them they might have been hacked. Just better to be safe and not risk something happening, someone getting your data through that link. Question 4, photos getting leaked. Most likely reason, they used a weak or reused password. So strength of passwords, using different passwords for different platforms, really important. Might be obvious, but if your account gets hacked somewhere, if you've used that same password everywhere, potentially your account gets hacked everywhere. So having different passwords is always the safest thing to do. Strongest option for password is the random mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. I actually was surprised by this because I thought it was B, and I'm sure advice a few years ago was B, which is the random phrase of 3 words. I remember that being advice at some point. Maybe that was bad advice at the time. Maybe the advice has changed, but current expertise in the area says that the hardest passwords to be guessed or hacked are random mixes. But then, of course, we have to remember them. I think that's the hardest part, isn't it? And then the bonus question, what must you have to work in cybersecurity? The fact we had an option that was none of the above probably gave away that the answer was none of the above. But the answer is none of the above, maybe unsurprisingly. But maybe surprisingly, I think in all areas of tech, there's our hashtag, our phrase, motto, can't think what the word is smash the stereotype. There are lots of stereotypes about working in all areas of tech, and one of them is that you need to have a computer science degree, programming experience, previous IT work experience, and that's not true actually for any area of tech. certain roles will definitely have specific requirements that might include certain qualifications or certain previous experience, certain skills like coding potentially, but that's actually quite a small percentage of roles in tech and in cybersecurity, which you will learn more about momentarily as I ask the panelists to join me. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And hopefully that just stops sharing and it comes back to just me. Excellent. And I'm now going to bring all the panelists on screen and ask them to come off mute. And we're going to start our conversation. Let me make sure I can also get Lara on. Hang on a second. Here we go. So, firstly, thank you all so much for joining us today. We all had a chat last week, so I've learned a little bit about your stories already, but obviously everyone watching today doesn't know much about you. They potentially know your names and your job titles, but that's it. So I think we'll start going round and doing introductions. And just as a bit of a guide, if you can share your name, your job title, briefly, kind of how you got to where you are, and what your job title actually means in practice. So what kind of things do you do day to day? And Lisa, you're nodding along, so I'm going to pick on you and go to you first.
Okay, great. Thanks, May and Emily. Thanks, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. So my name is Lisa Clark, and I'm Chief Media Counsel for Tenable, based in Dublin. And I've been with Tenable for over 7 years now. And I'll just give a quick snapshot of how I got to where I am, and show you that the road less travelled can still get you all the places you need to go. So I did my degree in international business and languages in Spanish and Italian. So I was really fortunate to have the incredible opportunity to study in the University of Granada for a year, which was brilliant. I had lots of fun. Then when I finished my degree, I knew I loved business and I loved all the different bits of it. But did I want to go on and do economics, marketing, accounting? But I decided law was the subject for me. So I went and did a postgrad diploma in law. And then I did my professional legal exams. I qualified as a commercial solicitor in PwC in Dublin. And I qualified just at the beginning of the global financial crisis. So things were a bit tricky. Lots of people got let go. There were very few jobs around. So I had a period of a few months where I was out of work. So I was applying for lots of different jobs. And I ended up being really lucky to get a job in a Colombian coal mining company, that I only got that job because what made me stand out was because I had Spanish, and the language in the office was actually Spanish. So they wanted people who could converse in Spanish and be around Spanish. So that was brilliant. And I was delighted to use my Spanish again. And worked there for a few years, and I decided once I started having children that law was not for me, that I was going to go down a more creative path. So I decided I was going to be a chef and start my own food business. However, it was a perfect example of where what you love being your career is not always ideal. So once I qualified as a chef, I decided it wasn't really for me in the professional realm. And I also knew that I could probably make a bit more money working as a lawyer, which appealed to me, being totally honest. So I went on and started just applying for jobs. And the first job that I got offered was in a cybersecurity company as a junior lawyer. So I just started there and worked my way up. So I was in that company, WebSense, it's now ForcePoint, for a number of years. Then I went into SurveyMonkey, where I supported their enterprise business. And then I started in Tenable 7 years ago, and I was hired to set up the international legal team. So prior to that, we'd only had lawyers based in the US because it was very much a US centric business. But now it's a global business, so it needed lawyers outside of the US to support on more local legal issues and issues that were more pertinent to international customers. So, as I said, I've been here over 7 years. I totally love it. It's an amazing company to work for. I'm very fortunate to have amazing colleagues who you're going to meet, some of whom you're going to meet in a minute. And yeah, I just totally love it. So my day to day, I'm very conscious of not making this sound really boring. I do predominantly commercial and corporate. So commercial will be everything to do with our customers or our go-to-market. So I will work on agreements, negotiations, contracts, any issue to do with our customers. Myself and my team, we support the business in that regard. We also do corporate. So corporate is like we've over 40 different entities across the globe because we've so many different employees in different countries. and we need to have an entity in every country where we do business. And if you think of a company, it's its own separate entity, and that needs to be like legal personality, and that needs to be maintained. And we need to have good corporate hygiene and look after that by having board meetings and lots of administrative tasks. So we're responsible for that as well. And then we'll do little bits and pieces of employment law if an issue comes up, or if we're looking at a new lease in one of the countries in which we operate. So, for example, if we need a new office in Dubai, we'll help with the legal negotiations around that. So that's just a quick snapshot of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Amazing. Well, I think the fact that you're working in law, but in tech, specifically cybersecurity, will probably be very interesting to lots of people watching. We know that law is still a very common kind of dream career for lots of young people. So making them aware that those roles also exist in the tech space and are very much needed, I think is really important. Tess, we're going to come to you next. So if you can introduce your role, how you got there, and what kind of things you do day to day.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Tess. It's great to be here. I am the Senior Director of our Global Partner Marketing here at Tenable, and I've been here for just over 5 years. I started my career in marketing around 17, back in the day where digital marketing didn't exist. We had to print out direct mail. So we printed out letters, we stuffed envelopes, we sent them out, and we followed up with a phone call. So really, interesting start. It was very labor intensive, very different to now, no social media. But I did love marketing. I loved that you could create something, generate interest, and then let salespeople sell something. So I really loved that. Whilst I was at work, I was told I couldn't continue there and grow unless I got a degree. So I'd like to think I invented the degree apprenticeship myself. But yeah, I worked pretty much full time and did the degree full time, which was intense, but I loved the fact that I could earn money and also do a job, not end up with my student debt. So it was really good for me. I then went into kind of B2C marketing, working for companies like FedEx, which is a shipping company, some baby care companies. And then I ended up in tech. One of the reasons was I felt that it was going to, pay well, which is obviously really, important in life. Well, for me, I kind of liked the idea of earning money, and I knew that tech would pay well, whilst also using my skills. And also, I thought I could bring my creativity from consumer marketing over to tech. Traditionally, tech marketing has been, past things like white papers, etc. And actually, there's a chance to make it exciting, especially since COVID. We're all humans and we all work in different places, and we're all excited by different things like personalization. So my role at Tenable is really about how do we make tech exciting? And I work with our partners, who are a group of people that sell our products on our behalf, essentially. They have the opportunity to sell lots of different technology. And so my role is to get them to think Tenable is exciting. We're a great tech partner to be with, and to excite them and engage them to build a community to want to sell our products. So it's marketing to our partners about our tech, but also about our brand, the great people that are here, and making us exciting to do business with. So whether that's events, creative marketing campaigns, looking at strategic marketing, where should we focus? What should we do? Some of the team work on web design and content. So it's really exciting, and tech is absolutely an exciting industry to work in. In marketing, you can be creative, and I think that'll only change more with things like AI, the social media platforms. We've got a real opportunity to make it exciting. And that's me.
Amazing, love that. And speaking of global, I forgot to mention that we are a global panel today. So Lisa, I believe you're based in Ireland. Are you in Dublin at the moment?
I am indeed. I'm in the office currently, yeah.
You are. And Tess, you're in the UK?
Oh, so I'm based in the UK and live in Cambridge.
And over to Joanna next then, and I believe you are currently in Poland.
Hello, yes, that's correct. I'm in Poland, in Warsaw, so this is the capital city of Poland. Next borders are Ukraine, Germany, preferring wherever you would like to go. So I'm Joanna Wziątek. This is the correct pronunciation of my name in Polish, and my official position is Senior Sales Engineer. However, if you look at it closer, different vendors, different companies have a different naming for it, because basically my my position is a pre-sales engineer. What does it mean? It means that pre-sales is somebody who does the work before the sales will happen, because most of the vendors, their aim and goal is, apart from making the world more secure, is also to sell their products to earn some money, because we are not charity, obviously. But looking at what my predecessors were saying, this is the place where you can earn a lot, because we do sell things. And so basically, if you would like to try something out, you are not sure whether this is something that you need. It's like buying a car. You go in a shop, you look at the car, and then you would like to have a test ride. And this is where the pre-sales engineer comes in. So you talk to the sales guys, you look at the marketing materials, and then you go to that pre-sales engineer, which are typically men, but I wish there are more women. And she or he will explain everything. He will demonstrate, he will do the installation, he will show you the tips and tricks, and then he or she will hand over back to the sales team, where next there will be the legal department, where Lisa may come in, and then after that there is a lot of different roles that you may also have people may have discussion.
Amazing. I know quite a few women actually who started their careers in tech, in sort of software development, and then have moved into sales engineer roles, which I find really interesting. I guess it's a great way to use kind of technical understanding, but in a role that's maybe a bit more people facing potentially. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So my background is Master of Science in Computer Science. So this is my master thesis was related to a networking. And actually, when I started my 5-year studies, I was thinking, yeah, I want to be a programmist. This is what I want to do. But later on, I realized that, and now I don't want to sit all day long in front of the computer, not talking to anybody, wearing a hoodie and then sipping a coffee that is already cold. This is not my life. Then I tried networking, so the switches, routers, and all that stuff. But then you realize that there is a lot of cables and cabling, and you need to sit in a server room, again, on your own. And you need to wear a proper jacket because it's cold inside. And I realized that I may manage both things, because I really like to talk and I really like to meet people. And there is a lot of different roles, like consultancy, like pre-sales engineering, where you need to have a strong technical background because you need to understand all that stuff and how it works. But on the other hand, you need to understand the people, what are the needs, and whether you can fulfill those needs. And then also honesty is the element that is needed for that role. And in Tenable, there is a lot of different departments. Already Lisa was mentioning that we have different entities around the globe, and all that entities needs pre-sales engineers that need to talk to using the local language to their end users, to the customers, which is really cool. And Tenable itself is giving a lot of opportunities. And if you have a look at my wall, there are some certificates that are earned from Harvard, that I earned from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and all were paid by Tenable. So that's amazing job. And if I became a programmist, I would never achieve that.
It's really good to know. Lara, over to you then. And I believe you're based in Dubai.
Yes, I'm in Dubai, even though I've got a cloud behind me. I am in sunny Dubai. So yes, I'm the Senior Regional Marketing Manager for the Middle East and Africa, and that includes Turkey. So what was I doing yesterday? We were out. We had the co-CEO of Tenable here in Dubai. He's over for a Middle East trip. So we had a team dinner with a lot of the sales team, the pre-sales engineers, the delivery team. So that was really good. And then got home just to do a tech check, and saw Emily online doing her tech check. So we were really happy. We collaborated. So that's part of the role, is working across all different lines of business. So also working with legal team, with the pre-sales engineering, and I work closely with Tess to go to market through the channels. So we're one big team. what I did to get into this role. So I enjoyed art as a young student. I really loved art, and I loved painting and drawing, and I wanted to go to art school. My mum is also an artist, and she said, Lara, focus on business. It's difficult to get into art, and you will not, you're good at business. Keep art as your passion. So I thought marketing sounds good because that combines art and it combines business, and that's creative. And that's the route I chose in university. So I went to University of London in Surrey, in Egham. I am originally born and raised in London. And then I studied marketing and management. So management was my major, and I specialized in marketing. I didn't have a huge tech background, although IT was a core module, and statistics, which was really, really tough. So graduated and started off working in a few smaller businesses. So the Black Taxi Company for London, similar to Tess, it was very manual, kind of like opening up papers to find press clippings, even though it was available online as well. And it wasn't quite fulfilling enough. I wanted big business. I wanted to corporate. I did crave that. I tried to do the FMCGs as consumer marketing because that was always pitched to us. But somewhere along the line, I ended up contracting for Cisco, and that was like a whole new world of networking, routers, and switching. And I ended up with a digital marketing role, which totally actually terrified me because I didn't even know how to create a URL. But eventually, I was thrown in the deep end and learned this to the extent that my colleague and I wrote a book about digital marketing in emerging markets. And we got a publisher through Cisco. So that was the FT Press. And that was pretty early on. And it was exciting. I ended up moving to Egypt with that role, Qatar, and then now Dubai. I've been with Tenable for 2 years. And the role includes digital marketing, events. So tonight we're off to Saudi Arabia with the team to do a seminar tomorrow. And it involves working with all the functions, so legal, partner, pre-sales. There are so many elements to go to market, to educate the consumer, to sell through the partners. So it involves a lot of communication. There's a lot of creativity. We recently did this cloud campaign or ran it on YouTube ad in Saudi Arabia, and it got like 12 million views. So it's exciting. Wow. Yeah, it was really, really good. There's so much potential in the digital space. So we do a bit of digital, bit of event management, reporting, ROI, metrics. So there's lots of metrics to capture the results. But we do need to understand the product. We did this internal thing called sharpening the saw, and we have to give a pitch on the product. So we do need that technical acumen. But for myself, I'm not a deep dive. I'm more go to market, and those are the skills I bring to Tenable. So
amazing, thank you. So that's a great overview of all of your roles, and it's really interesting how different they all are, and really shows how you do need that real kind of breadth and range of experiences and skills in an organization to kind of give you everything that you need to run it, basically. You've all talked about studies, but you've all talked about studies post-school. A lot of the people watching today are at school. They might be doing their GCSEs or their A-levels, or they might be making decisions soon about what they're going to study for those. So if you could cast your minds back to when you were at school, we had a question come in which comes in a lot. So I think it's an important one to ask because it's quite interesting, I think, to learn this, which is what A-levels or equivalent final school subjects did you take? So Lara, I'm going to ask you first, just because you were just speaking and you were talking about your degree. You talked about being interested in art. So can you remember what you actually studied as your final school subjects?
Yeah, so I studied art, and we had an issue with the art. So our first teacher was really way out there and creative. So we were asked to consolidate all of our coursework in the second year, which put a lot of pressure on because we had to do 10 different art projects. So I did definitely get art in there. So that was part of the plan. Business studies, so that was great. It gave me a full aspect. There was an element of economics in that, but business studies was really good. And then sociology. So just to balance it out, which was
that's really interesting actually, because those three do kind of come together in marketing in a way. It is kind of, it's understanding people and behavior, isn't it? And the business elements and the kind of creativity from art. So
demographics, like different cultures, subcultures that exist, family structures. And I think that's really helpful for understanding consumer persona. So that helped to build an understanding like of how people behave as consumers, which fits into marketing. So I do think it worked well together. It was an interesting combination. So.
Nice. But did you need to have studied anything specific for your degree, or were your A-levels not really?
It was based on points, and because of this art degree, so I had my first choice was King's University in London to do the management degree, but because I was so pressured under this 1 year, it was very stressful to do this art project like in 10 years, and our first didn't count. So I went to, still part of the University of London, Royal Holloway, but it was purely based on the points system. And also writing a personal statement as to why I would be suitable to do a management degree. So
nice. So the actual specific subjects that you studied ultimately, I'm sure they have obviously helped you along the way, but
maybe wasn't... in the personal statement, but it was a point system. I remember at the time, because I remember being a few points off King's, and I was like devastated that where would my career go? But
here you are now, okay. So it all worked out really well. So I love that. Yeah. And Joanna, how about you? I don't know, do you have like an A-level equivalent in Poland?
Yes,
what were the subjects that you studied?
Yes, we do. That there is a final exam, and obviously because I wanted to go to the computer science, the math was the most important. So in my country, you may choose whether you go for that basic level or that advanced level. So obviously I was going for that advanced level. And at that time back, there was not that point system that Lara was mentioning. Now we have it, but before I have to also go through the entry exams for the university. But yeah, the math is definitely the thing. But I would also say that the languages are important, and why? Because I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't be able to speak English. Everything in computer science is in English. And so even if there is a translation, the first version of the software, the first documentation, everything goes in English. And often the big vendors, they are having the support which is located in UK, in US, India, and you need to speak English. So I would say that these two skills are the most important. And if your English is your first language, I would advise, as all my colleagues on the call, they speak at least one additional language. And this is why we are here, because that helps a lot to understand different aspects and also to be more attractive in the market.
I love that. That's great advice. And also, I was nodding along when Lisa was talking about her degree. I don't know if I told you this before, but I also studied Spanish and Italian at university. So we'll have to talk about that at some point. Tess, how about you? What did you study at school?
Yeah, I did traditional A-levels. I went for a mix of what I wanted to do because I enjoyed them, plus for career. So I thought, if I'm going to be there full time, I really want to enjoy what I'm studying as well. So I did drama. Because that's a passion of mine. I know I didn't make it on the big stage, but you know,
I did drama too.
Yeah, it's good for communication and confidence.
Definitely.
I then did geography because I loved that, and I did my final report on the cliff slumps in Overstrand, and I will never forget rock formations. So that was obviously essential for my life. But the two that really helped me were business studies, and I did law, because at the time when I was 15-ish picking them, I kind of felt like law was really interesting. I kind of wanted to be a barrister, and kind of, you know, I watched lots of documentaries, and that was kind of the dream. So I kind of went business because it was broad, and I kind of knew that I wanted to work in some form of business. So I kind of felt having that, you know, kind of learning about businesses in general was kind of really helpful, and kept the kind of door open, and that led me into being able to do a business management degree as a, you know, as an undergraduate, which then you can kind of start picking your specialisms, but that was kind of a broad subject. So I kind of recommend that for anyone who wants to get into a business kind of area in tech, but they don't quite know what. It kind of keeps the door open to learn, you know, how businesses work, how they operate. So yeah, it was interesting. That was me.
Amazing. And Lisa, how about you? What did you study at school?
So in Ireland, the system here mandates that you have to do Irish, English and Maths for your final A-level equivalent, and then you can choose 4 other subjects, but only 6 subjects are counted. So being totally honest, Maths was not my forte and never has been. English, Irish, always loved. I always loved all the humanitarian sort of arts-based subjects. And then I chose business, which I loved and I just understood and it came quite naturally to me. History, and I've always been mad about history, and actually history is a good subject as a prelude to law, because a lot of it, like there's a lot of stories involved. It just really fits in nicely, and a lot of what you do when you're studying law is based on historical cases and things like that. And then I did Spanish and German, so I've just always loved languages. So
I
yes,
love
I
that.
was delighted. Yeah.
Lots of variety. And I think, Tess, what you were saying is really important. To be honest, like when young people do ask me about, oh, what should I be choosing to study? I think if you know exactly what you want to do when you finish school and you know that there are certain requirements, then probably do those subjects if you know you definitely want to do something specific. But in general, I think picking subjects that you enjoy is really important. Exactly what you were saying, Tess. You know, especially for A levels, you're going to be studying them for 2 years. At times, it might be quite intense. You might have to write long essays or revise for exams. And if you're not interested in the subject, it's going to be a lot harder. If you enjoy it, you'll want to put the time and effort in to learn about it. So I do think that's probably the best advice.
I think so, yeah, because I think you're there. And I think actually I've got a son who's nearly 15 going through the same process now, kind of choosing subjects, and the kind of pressure's on to kind of pick these academic subjects. And he thinks that he might not be successful if he doesn't. And I was like, actually, pick things for your career, but also enjoy it. You've got,
Yeah.
years doing GCSEs. Enjoy something as well. Have a bit of pleasure. So when you go to the lessons, part of it's your career, but also, enjoy something. So if it's photography or, whatever it is that you want to do, a creative element, it's not going to be a detriment to your career. It's going to give you another set of skills alongside business to think, it makes you kind of more rounded, a bit more interesting. And you actually can enjoy a bit more, I don't want to say free time in the lesson, but, sort of less intensity, if you like, and sort of using a different side of your brain.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I just can remember as a teenager how stressful it can be having to think about what subjects you're going to pick and worrying that you're kind of narrowing down your options for the rest of your life. So I think hopefully it's quite freeing for young people on the call listening to know that that's rarely the case, actually. And what you study at A level, although it can obviously help you on the way towards specific careers if you've got something in mind, ultimately you can get into anything through various different routes. So it's not, if you didn't pick a specific subject and you later discover actually you wish you had, or it would have helped you, it's never too late. You can pick up those skills through other means. So hopefully that's nice for people to hear. On that note then, and we might not have time for everyone to answer the next few questions, so we'll maybe do one person each. So raise your hand if you'd like to answer this one. What would you recommend school students do now to help them prepare for their future careers and figure out which path might be right for them? Lara.
Lara, you go first.
Okay, Lara had her hand up, so I'm going to give it to Lara.
So do something like, if you have time, and you always have time, is just don't burn out, of course, and do what you're passionate about. But try something different. Like, you may have social media, you can build a brand on social media, try building a website. You don't need to wait until you're out of school to practice, or you can do a sport that you love. I do martial arts, by the way, as a outside of work and coach. To do something practical, get involved. Don't be worried about failing. You're so young. Fail fast, to take initiatives, do different projects and see what you like. Maybe take like an internship, get real life exposure or practice, read magazines. So Campaign magazine is a marketing magazine, or FT is a financial newspaper, blogs, even write a blog, but like maybe make a bit of time to get a bit of experience and exposure, so you can figure out if you like that skill set, if you're passionate, and if it's your strength. You don't have to fully wait until you're out of school to start to know what you enjoy. But also, please don't burn out. You're young, enjoy your life, and make sure it's part of it rather than only that part. So that's a way to test as well, see what you like.
Really good advice. Tess, what were you going to say?
I was actually going to say, lots of young people are interested in social media. A good platform to be on is actually LinkedIn, because it's a very professional platform. There are lots of pages to follow. So if you are interested in a couple of different topics, whether that's law, computer science, you can find what I call business influencers to follow and actually see what their job is about. If you follow someone in marketing or law in a professional way, you get to understand what they're talking about, what type of events they do, what their job entails. And actually there's lots of different pages on LinkedIn and groups, or following some companies that you like the look of, and sort of understanding what the jobs look like, and understanding kind of business culture. So I think having a LinkedIn profile early on and kind of experiencing kind of the business world of social media is probably super useful. And I wish I'd kind of had that back in my day, so you can actually start to understand what the world kind of looks like in a practical perspective.
Yeah, with a lot of young women in our community are on LinkedIn actually, and I'm always very impressed when I see them like posting and engaging with people on there. I think it is a really great platform, which I've only really discovered the power of in the last few years. But for building a network and making connections, and also just like you said, learning about kind of getting a bit of a glimpse into what different roles are really like and what different company cultures are like, what jobs are out there, all those types of things. It is really, really useful for that. Another shameless plug that I would make for Next Set Girls is, if you're thinking that working in tech might be interesting, watch more of our events, but also sign up to come to some of them in person. So if you don't want to do like a whole week work experience, we do lots of insight days, which are 1-day events, mostly in school holidays, where you can come along to companies, be in their offices, meet lots of people who work there, do some kind of hands-on workshops and things, and learn lots about what working in that company might really be like and what doing some of those jobs might really be like. So actually getting that hands-on experience, I think, can be really helpful for figuring out if that's something that you want to do, or if it's not. And the earlier you figure that out, the better it is, really, because better not to spend a lot of time working towards a certain career if actually it turns out it's not quite right for you. So it's very good either way. And I just love people coming to our events. So sign up for our emails and you will find out about them. And follow us on social media. My next question, I'm going to ask to Tess, actually. I know you just answered one, but just quickly, you've kind of already said this, but we did have a specific question about degree apprenticeships. So I know you didn't technically, you technically did. You didn't do a thing that was called a degree apprenticeship, but what you did is effectively what is now offered. So the question was, what do you think about the pros and cons of a degree apprenticeship versus going the traditional route through university? Having done something very similar, so working and studying at the same time, what would your thoughts be on?
I would be hugely personally pro. To be really honest, when you do a business degree, the actual contact time you have at university is kind of fairly limited, between 8 and 12 hours a week. So actually, if you're kind of, you get into a student debt, which some people are okay with, I personally wasn't. So you actually have the opportunity to not have the student debt, to work at the same time and earn money, gain experience, and actually still have your contact time, because a lot of it is being self-studying, right? So I think I attended, say, 8 to 12 lectures a week. The rest of my time was to study when I wanted. Well, that doesn't have to be in the day. You could work in the day and then study in the evening. It requires, I'd say, a lot more self-management. But for people out there who are really good with time management, really passionate about wanting to learn on the job and earn money and have no student debt, I think it's genius, and I wish I had invented it, because I think it's fantastic for people that perhaps they don't necessarily want the university experience, but they do want a degree. So yeah, I would be I think it's fantastic, and a huge shift in what I'd call traditional academia, and I think it's it's got a really big place in the world.
Yeah, there's lots of young women. Sorry, I was going to say, there's lots of young women in our community who are doing the kind of official degree apprenticeships, and it's probably even better than your experience, Tess, because I think it's organised very well. It will vary per company and per kind of university that it's in partnership with, but it seems like sometimes you'll do like a certain number of weeks on the job, and then you'll have like a week which is university lectures and coursework and stuff. Or sometimes some of them, I think it will be like 1 day a week or something, but it is quite well organised in that there's certain times where you're free to not be at work and be kind of studying. What were you going to say, Lisa?
I'm sorry, I was just going to feed into that, because when I was training, it was similar motion. So you'd have like maybe 6 months in college, then 3 months in the office, and it all was very complementary. So you were learning theoretical stuff, but then being able to apply it and see how it came to life in the real world, in the workplace, gave you a real sense of what you were actually particularly interested in or not. And I think as well, when I've been interviewing for roles, both within law and obviously other functions, I love seeing work experience, and particularly combined with study. I just think it shows that you're organised, you're responsible, you're diligent, and I just think it gives you that practical experience that really gives you a serious edge. I think it's an amazing idea.
Yeah, I think lots of people I've spoken to recently have advised if you do choose to go to university, which I mean, I did go to university. All of us have in some way done some form of degree, and I really enjoyed being at university. I studied languages, and a big part of why I did it was I didn't know what I wanted to do when I finished school. Everyone else was going to university, so I thought, I guess I'll do that too. And doing languages at that point meant having a year abroad, which I thought sounded amazing. And I thought languages are a useful life skill. So even though it wasn't something that I didn't necessarily wanted to use at work, and I have used it on and off in my career, but not that much really. It was more for like lifestyle reasons than kind of career reasons. And I think there'll be lots of people who still would prefer to have that university experience. But obviously with the degree apprenticeship, you're also getting work experience at the same time. So I think some of the people I've spoken to recently have given really good advice, which is if you are doing a degree, not an apprenticeship, to try and still get work experience while you're there. So either do a year in industry, which obviously does mean the course is longer. So it will be a 4-year course rather than 3 years, but it means you get a full year working in something related to what you're studying. So that when you graduate, you've got that full year of work experience as well as your studies. Or just in the summer, you know, there's increasing numbers of companies offering internships now, or even just work experience. Even things like Insight Days, like what we run, they're open to university students as well. So anything where you're getting that practical experience and just experiencing an office, even like if you're thinking of going into a role that's kind of office based, even if it's partly remote, I think that, you know, we work with so many young girls who they've never been in an office before, and it can be a bit of a shock sometimes because in a good way, it's a very different kind of culture and environment to school and university. But if you've never done that before applying to roles, it's hard then to kind of, it's a steeper learning curve, I guess, isn't it, than if you've had a bit of experience with it before. Okay, my next question then is a really nice one. I'm going to ask, we'll see Joanna or Lara who wants to answer this one first, as you didn't answer the last one. Do you struggle with burnout and motivation? Actually, Lara, I might pick on you for this one because you've mentioned burnout already, so I'm going to come to you first. Do you struggle with burnout and motivation, as I struggle a lot with staying motivated to learn different code languages? If yes, how do you deal with it?
I have had burnout in the past, and so I remember actually burning out in the like before my A levels with this whole art. That was the first time I'd experienced it, and I loved art, but suddenly I just had to do so much of it, and there were no breaks, and I'm really actually. Very tough on myself and fairly competitive. So I did succeed eventually, got the A, but like that was with a lot of turmoil. And then writing the book as well, I tend to just get really sucked into stuff. So I say take breaks if you realize that you're not enjoying what you used to love, and suddenly you feel like it's become a bit of a burden, or your social life is starting to feel pretty off, or you haven't got balance. So there's this wheel that I've been introduced to. It's got 8 areas. So it looks at your personal life, your health and fitness, your values, your family, and you can see where you're lacking in certain areas. Sometimes you do need to go full throttle, like for example, you've got your finals and that all, but you do need to step out of it every so often. Your health is really important. Health is wealth. So if you start to compromise that, you don't have much left. But I feel when you start to feel the signs of fatigue or just not enjoying it as much as you used to, or lacking motivation, take a step back, do something different, have some fun, go on a trip, change your environment, be in a creative environment that brings out your creative juices. And working in an office is not necessarily the most creative place to always have your creative juices flowing. So change your environment, take a break, look after your physical health, and it can switch back on. So motivation is not always consistent. It kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes you just need to get on with it, but you should cultivate it and do what you love and you're passionate about, because it is in there. It just sometimes you do get tired, and that's human. So just remind yourself you're human, and you will pick it up. So don't worry too much. Don't overthink it, but change of scene, or maybe have an honest conversation with yourself and figure out, is this what I really, really want to do, or do I need to make some changes and pivot, which is also very normal. So.
And to be kind to yourself, I think, really, ultimately,
Absolutely.
isn't it? And yeah, and understand exactly like you're saying that like motivation isn't going to be high, isn't it? It wouldn't be normal. We wouldn't be human if our motivation was really high all the
We're
time.
not AI.
No, exactly. There's
We're
always going to be
robots.
times where it kind of dips a bit. But it's really interesting you talking about burning out of school, actually. I hadn't really thought of this before, but my first experience, I think, of properly burning out would have been at school as well. I worked so hard for my GCSEs that the year after I just was like absolutely exhausted. really messed up my exams. This was at the time when they had the little experimental period where there were AS levels, which I don't think exist anymore. So you had exams in year 12 and then which were like part of your A levels and then more exams in year 13. I basically messed up all the exams in year 12, had to retake them all on top of all the extra work in year 13. So I think I had a similar experience to you, Lara, to being like really overwhelmed my last year of school. And it is really tough, but you know, you just have to, I think it's a case of like accepting that there's going to be times when your energy levels aren't as high and your motivation isn't as high, and just finding coping mechanisms that work for you, because it'll be different for each person as well. Joanna, you were nodding along and I feel like you haven't talked in a little while, so I'm going to pick on you for this one too. Have you got any tips for burnout and motivation?
Well, basically, I agree with all of you have said. We are just humans, and you know, I as I mentioned, I'm good at mathematics, but everybody knows sinusoid, and our life is like a sinusoid. There are those downs and there are those ups, and these can be related to our health, as Lara was saying. You might be, you know, you are basically when we were young, we don't think much about the future. I mean, we do, but we still cannot understand that, you know, at the age of 80, we still will be feeling like we are still young. There are so many things to do. And so this is with us. This is how we are. I don't know anyone who don't want to, you know, who is thinking like, oh, I will be old when I will be 50. But then when you talk to the people who are 50, they are like, no, I'm just 50. My life is just beginning. So these are the things that you need to accept, and the earlier you accept those things, the easier it will be. I will also follow the advice of Emily. Be kind to yourself. So whenever you feel down, imagine that it's not you. Imagine that you are sitting next to a friend of yours. And what would you say to that person? What would be that advice to that person? Because sometimes we are thinking like, oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. And we are in that mood of, okay, I need to pick up a good studies. I need to, you know, like have a degree. And you don't have to do anything. You should be happy in the first place. And if you pick up something, you don't feel like being forced to that. And then you think, okay, studies, then I need to take the exam, then I need to do the apprenticeship, then I need to have a nice profile on a LinkedIn. And then you feel like overwhelmed with all of that. And that gets you down. So find moments to just sit with yourself, like with a friend. You put a hand on your arm and say like, hey, Joanna, am I happy doing all of that? Is this really something that makes me happy? Do I really need all of that? And do some prioritization. You have another 80 years of life in front of you. So just think, what is the most important thing now? And find some time for yourself. Be good for yourself. And there is always a moment to change a career, your choice. Nothing is forever. So remember, nothing is forever, and find the good things, the positive aspects of your life. That would be my advice.
I love that tip of trying to talk to yourself, even in your own head, the way you would talk to someone else, the way you would talk to a friend. I've seen that advice lots of times, but I still forget it. It's something I need to remind myself, because I think that's so important. We're always so tough on ourselves, aren't we? And so much kinder to other people. So yeah, trying to treat yourself as you would a good friend, and just be really kind and accepting that, you know, you're not always going to be at 100%. I've got a couple of questions left. We've got 6 minutes. We're going to squeeze them in. I'm determined. So Lisa, I'm going to go to you for this one. What advice would you give to young women who may doubt their place in tech or feel like they don't belong?
Yeah, so I think everyone at a certain stage in their career and life in general will have a feeling of imposter syndrome. And I think when something's new or you're starting something new, like for example, your first time working in an office, you'll feel a bit out of place. It won't feel very natural to you. Even I think sometimes for women, it can be quite intimidating working in tech, because we all know it's a very male dominant industry. And so often I'll be on calls and there'll be like 20 squares of people and there's like 4 women and the rest are men. Now, after a certain amount of time, though, you do just become used to that. And I think if you, like Joanna was saying, if you've positive self-talk, if you're kind to yourself, give yourself some space. I also actually think even though it's such a male dominant industry, my experience has been nothing but positive, because the type of personalities that are attracted to this type of industry are people who are really professional, really motivated. They really want to succeed. So they don't care whether you're a man or a woman helping them succeed. They just want to succeed, and you're part of the team that's involved in that. So I think in my experience, it's been very positive compared to some of the other industries that like we've had some instances where you'd have negotiations with external parties and men aren't as open to negotiating with women. But in the tech sphere, my experience is nothing but positive when it comes to that. And yeah, just positive self-talk, believe in yourself. You'll always feel a bit like you're suffering from imposter syndrome until you just keep doing something, and then it'll feel like you're totally normal.
That's great. We've got one question left, and then we'll wrap up. So this is a tough one. The last question, I do think this is interesting though. So we had a question come in from a young person, which is, where is the cyber industry going in the next 10 years? I know none of you has a crystal ball and none of you is working in like a super technical cybersecurity role. So you might not feel like you're your best place to answer this, but I think we could look at it slightly broadly. What are your thoughts on where even the tech industry might be going, or even just careers and kind of the world of work in general? Because I think technology is progressing really rapidly, like generative AI, all these things that are happening at the moment that are kind of affecting every industry really, but obviously are tech related. What are your thoughts on what the world of work, maybe specifically in cybersecurity, but maybe more generally, might look like in the next 10 years? I'm going to ask Joanna.
Well, the cybersecurity world is always because of the cyber criminals. And as long as the cyber criminals are earning a lot of money, and they do, because of our data, and not only our company's data, but also our personal data, they will do their job. So basically, you will always find a job in the cybersecurity. And I do believe that the AI, because it's really approaching broadly, we've been using that even in Tenable for 5-7 years to detect the things. It's really helping out. So this is the skill that will definitely evolve. But we also notice that the cyber criminals are using AI as well. But on top of that, we do see that there is a lot of regulations and pieces of law here in the European Union, but also outside in the Americas and also in the APAC. So I believe that we will have that mixture of technology coming, because we also we need to think about the quantum computing that is coming, and the threats that are related to encryption and all those algorithms. We have AI. We have cyber criminals on the other side, but we also have pieces of law, and that all evolves to make the world more secure. So this is where I see it going.
Amazing, thank you. And we've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to do very quick fire around the panel. Final words of advice or inspiration to young people watching on the call. So Lara, I'm going to start with you.
Believe in yourself and you're halfway there. Don't ever stop believing in your ability. Go forward. You'll meet challenges and obstacles in the way. Put your vision in place and don't let anybody stop you. Have self-belief, get the mentors and coaching, and you will achieve your goal. Believe in you.
Set the bar high there, Lara. Tess, you're next.
Yeah, I don't know how I beat that. No, be passionate about what you want to do. And actually, you're looking around thinking, how can they do it? They're no different to you. We've talked about being human. If someone else can do it, you can do it. You know, everyone's a human. We've got 24 hours in the day. But, you know, take that passion and go and do it. You know, if one of us can get a job here, you can absolutely do it. You know, you're at the beginning of your life and, you know, that's it really. Yeah, we're all human. Do whatever you want to do because there's no one else better than you to do it.
Amazing. Joanna?
I would quote Barbie. You can be whoever you want to be. You just try and figure out whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, you look for another way. That's it. Be yourself.
Amazing. And Lisa?
Yeah, 100%. I totally second that. I think be authentic and do what makes you happy, because life's too short and it's never too late to change careers or change direction, and you'll always end up where you're meant to be. Believe in yourself.
Amazing.
So yeah, all those things.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. What an inspiring note to end on. And we're bang on 10 o'clock. I'm very proud of myself for that time management. Thank you all 4 of you so much. I've loved this conversation. I wish it could go on longer. Everyone watching, I hope that you've enjoyed it and learned a little bit more about what it really means to work in cybersecurity, the real variety of roles that you can have and backgrounds that you can come from. If you want to learn more, please do follow us. We are partnered with Tenable, so we have more information about them on our website, and you can also look them up online and find out a bit more about what they do. Follow us on social media, sign up for our emails to find out about future events. I didn't put up the QR code for the feedback form. I knew I was going to forget something. So I will send around the link via email. Please do fill it in today. We really would love to get your feedback and know how you found the event and what we can do to make future events even more engaging. And I was going to say have a good Tuesday, and it is Tuesday. I just wanted to check that I didn't get the day wrong. So have a great Tuesday, everyone. And thank you again to our panelists. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Emily. Take care. Bye.